Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of Black on Black Cinema. I'm your host, Jay. I'm here with my co host, Micah
Hey.
and Tiara.
Hey.
All right, guys, we're back. This is episode 239, Claudine. Terrence is unfortunately not able to be on this episode, but we will carry on without him. He has seen this movie. I will just give you, probably the quick readout from him. He really enjoys this movie. He thinks it's very good. So, but let me just read you the general log line here for Claudine. In 1970s Harlem, garbage collector Rupe feels intimidated by the idea of dating Claudine, who is a single mother of 6 on welfare. I will go to Tiara first. Had you seen this movie before? I assume no.
Nope.
What'd you think?
Nope. Hadn't seen it. I loved it. I don't have any anything negative or any criticisms about it. I thought it was so interested to see this movie that was released almost 50 years ago, pretty much. And see so many similar themes that we see today. Particularly with Charles, the oldest, played by Joe Jackson from The Jackson's American Dream.
Yes. I was like, he looks super familiar, and I looked up the actor, and I was like, oh shit! I was like, yeah.
And just to let you know, he was born to play Joe Jackson. I was like, yeah, this feels very Joe Jackson.
Yeah,
this performance. But no, I just thought it was a really great look into just how Black people just couldn't win, especially Black women, and seeing a lot of the things that we've heard Black women say about Black women today, women who have children by multiple fathers and have to, in some ways, try to cheat the system to even just barely survive. So I thought the themes there were just really well done. Didn't know James Earl Jones was literally a 40-year-old man in this, and makes you wonder, he's been alive for so long, and
he's mad. It's crazy.
And I'm not ready to see him transition anytime soon. But I just feel like this is, even though this was released in 74, it's still so relevant to today, which I think tells you probably just how, maybe even how forward thinking it was back then. Highly enjoyed it. Would recommend. Watched it on YouTube, and even when it ended, I was still really interested in seeing just what happened next to these characters. It was also very interesting to see how they kind of highlighted how the decisions that Black couples like Rupe and Claudine had to make to determine if it was the right thing to be together, and see Rupe go through this whole ordeal of him being a father but not being there for his other kids, versus trying to be involved with this new family, having to make some different decisions, including some life-changing ones, that would put him in welfare if he decided to go with this woman. So, but it was just it's another reminder that Black people could not win when it came to the welfare system at all.
Yeah, Micah, your thoughts?
I really enjoyed this. I was pleasantly surprised by it. It's feels a little sitcom-y, right? Even down to the title, Claudine, right? And some of the breaks, some of the editing makes it feel like an elongated sitcom to me. But that's fine. I do have one nitpick, and that is, I feel like the movie just kind of runs out of steam, and just kind of doesn't know how to end.
I would agree with that.
This, I was very disappointed when it was over, which is something that is rare when I watch a movie. I'm either like, thank God this is over, or okay, that was great, it's over. But this was great, and I wanted more, like Tiara said. Diahann Carroll was, it's Diahann Carroll. She got nominated for an Oscar for this role. So,
oh, really? I didn't know that.
It was her. Okay, it was her only it's her only Oscar-nominated performance, which feels weird and accurate. James Earl Jones is just he's magnetic. He's super charming in this movie, and and it's everything about this movie is just really great except the ending. I was a little let down by the ending, but I 100% recommend it. I think that I'm gonna have to disagree with you a little bit, Tiara, in that the movie was forward thinking. I think I think the movie is quite literally just talking about what was going on at the time, and we just have not evolved as a society.
Yeah.
That's a better way of saying that. Yeah.
And but yeah, you don't see movies like this. Like, this is essentially a romantic comedy, but talking about something real. And like in most romantic comedies, like this follows the same trope as romantic comedies, like the same beats, right? They meet cute, they get together, they have a good time, they face adversity, they separate, they come back together, right? Like those are the beats of a romantic comedy. This movie does that, but it also talks about something serious, and it has a message. And I don't think it beats you over the head with the message, but it's flashing a giant spotlight on it. Yeah. And I don't have a problem with that, man. Like, I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. I really, really enjoyed it.
I have one more thing to add, which is just like there's an almost an underlying sadness for one theme of this movie, where you start to see kind of like potentially a cycle sort of repeat itself with another character and in the film, and you're wondering, like, is she going to be in the same position as her mother? And there's like that reality there, which is Mike, I agree. I agree with what you said with it's how it was and we haven't evolved, which is really sad.
Yeah. So so how I came upon this movie, because I saw a clip from the film, and I sent it to Mike. I was like, take a look at this, and then I watched the trailer, and I was like, yeah, take a look at this. What do you think? So the clip is where they go to the welfare office, like close to the end, right? And Rupe has that big speech, and I was like, damn, this is like, this is a really good one. It's weird seeing James Earl Jones not just be a like disembodied voice, right? You just remember, this is 3 years before Star Wars happens, right? Like it's a little odd, right? So it's like, oh, James Earl Jones is a real person. Like that's nice to see, right? And then he's giving this great speech and making this, excellent point. And it just kind of spurred me into like thinking about the welfare system and stuff like that. So that's how I sort of came about the movie, and then this is why we ended up doing it. I really liked it. I really actually enjoyed it quite a lot. Again, this is free on YouTube. Just type in like Claudine full movie. You'll find it. It's like an hour and a half. It's a pretty easy watch. The thing that I did find the most fascinating about the movie, like Mike is right, like it is a romantic comedy with this like societal commentary underneath. But what I actually found really fascinating about it is not just that it is a social commentary, but like when you dig in, I always thought about the idea, like people say like the welfare system is breaking up black families. And I always thought that as like, when I was young, like a very weird conspiracy theory. I was like, yeah, I know the government's like super evil. I got it. Like, not that the government hasn't done horrendous things to black people, but like that particular thing, I was like, yeah, I got it. Okay. And then as I got older, I did like a little bit of research, and I was like, yeah, okay, that kind of makes sense actually. And then as I'm watching this, what I realized is it's not so much that the idea of like the government was trying to break up black families, which is something people say. That's not what it, but see, I don't actually agree with that. Like when you watch the movie, what you realize, and you actually do the research of the program, and I've got some statistics that are really fucking fascinating, by the way, that will fucking make you go crazy. What you realize is when they expanded welfare, and like, because this takes place in the 1970s, like this is after Lyndon Johnson's Great Society, right? And they expanded welfare benefits like they gave people a lot of money. I'll tell you about like numbers later because they're actually super fascinating. But they gave people a ton of money. Now Claudine in the movie has 6 kids, so it's very easy to see why she would still be struggling, right? Like really struggling. You have 6 kids, you know, like if you got a good salary, you got 6 kids, your life is still fucking hard. But what you come to realize is you don't have to substitute conspiracy when the more obvious truth is malice, previous malice, right? Like the system is so fucked up that even when you tried to help black people, because you tried to help everyone at the same time, black people still suffer greater than white people in society. So the system that system that was created by white people for good reason from their perspective, right? They wanted to hold black people down. That system works flawlessly. It is so reinforcing that even when you help black people 100 years later, the system is still so fucking flawed that they get boomeranged and get hurt worse, right? So what I mean by that is the welfare system that as is presented in this movie and as it's in reality, they would pay these women and say, listen, you get X amount of dollars for, you know, the amount of kids you have, and you know, here's money for the government so you can survive. If you get married, you got a two income, or you got a 2-parent household, we step back. We're out, right? Like we're done. Either completely or for the most part, we'll give like help you with the kids, but like for the most part, we're done, right? So we reduce. Now, on the face, that doesn't sound bad. That sounds helpful to people. Like, yeah, okay, like fucking totally reasonable. But the problem is, and this is the thing that the Johnson administration and even good-natured people who thought they were doing the right thing by black people fucked up, is that black people only had access to menial jobs. So if you took away this welfare that was keeping them afloat, they only could get jobs scrubbing floors and shit like that paid nothing. It's not like a white person who's on welfare. They lose their job or they lose their welfare because they get married. Then those 2 people can work, or, you know, most likely at the time, the guy could work, but he could find a good job. He could find a decent job, right? You could find a job making $20,000 a year in 1974 and you'd be okay. But a black man trying to make $20,000 in 1974 was damn near impossible. So because the system is so lopsided, you can't fix the system by giving everybody even shit across the board. It doesn't work. And that's to me is what's so profound in the film, is like, even when you try to do well, the system itself is so broken, it still harms us. And that's the thing I think white people miss when they go, fine, we gave you guys the same thing we gave white people. Yeah, but we're fucked different than you are. Like, it's not the same. Even poor white people, it's not the same. So, I love the movie for its attempt at digging into that. I like the performances. I liked the love story. I thought all of that was cool. I liked that they didn't make Rupe perfect, in that even in his moment, like, even he's a good dude. Like, he's trying to be a good dude. But even he's got this, like, I don't know, man. Like, I was going to go to the bar and, like, you know, just get away from this situation. And he had to get pulled up. And there's sort of an intergenerational thing that happens too, which I thought was interesting. Yeah, but all in all, I really enjoyed this movie. It cost $1 million to make, and it made $6 million at the time, which is a pretty good success at the time, right? Also, it says a lot for this movie to come out in 1974 and it not be a blaxploitation movie. That's also a thing. I don't think it gets enough credit for, because pretty much all black movies at the time, for the most part, that were getting greenlit were blaxploitation movies. So
I read an interview. I'm just looking up other stuff with this movie. Robert Townsend said he became a filmmaker because he saw this movie. because he said it mirrored his experience growing up, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we can talk about some stats now, or we can wait.
Just one more thing. I felt this. There's a scene in this movie with Rupe and the social worker and stuff that gave me such intense anxiety. I was like, oh my God. Like I almost turned the movie off because I was like, I can't do this.
The white lady?
Yeah, when with Rupe.
Yeah, when she showed up. Yeah, I was like, he going to jail. Like,
man. Yeah. But yeah.
Oh, look,
we can talk about stats or something. Yeah.
I'll wait. Let's get into it. We'll find another place to talk about it. There's plenty. So the movie opens with Claudine. She is a mother of 6, played by Diahann Carroll. Claudine Price, single black Harlem mother living on welfare with 6 kids. She's on the bus with these other women, and they're basically like, oh, you got to get yourself a good man. You got to get yourself a man because a woman's got needs. You know, girl, what's up? Like, you don't need to marry nobody. You just need to get your back blown out. I was like, women talk the same as men. They just keep it a little bit lower than us, at least back in the day.
Which is why I would never understand. Back in the day, they do it now, which is why I would never understand why men complain that women don't want to fuck them. They do. You're just an asshole. Like women like having sex as much as men, yo. Like, you just got to treat them like, I don't know, humans.
Stop being a fucking herb. Just don't be a jerk.
Yo, the director thought that Diahann Carroll was too sophisticated to play this role. Like,
no, she's not.
She's like, yo, I'm from the Bronx, yo. Like I knew women like this. Like, come on, yo. So
that's funny. So while she secretly works as a housekeeper. She's not supposed to work because she's on welfare, but because she has 6 kids, how the fuck could she possibly afford to survive on the money that she's getting? She has to supplement that income. So she secretly is a housekeeper. And while she's doing her job, she meets this garbage man, Rupe, who picks up the trash in that area, I guess, every week or whatever. And so he's like flirting with her, and she's like, I don't know if I'm feeling it. And then, she's trying to be like, nah, I'm not going to date, because she basically doesn't trust men, because she's had multiple baby fathers who have knocked her up and abandoned her, right?
But I got the sense that they probably been checking each other out for a minute.
Yeah, you're probably right, actually. But I like this pair up, by the way. Like, I think they have very good chemistry, so it's actually kind of nice to see. And so he eventually, I guess he kind of wins her over, and she runs back outside as he's leaving. She's like, my address is, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, all right, I'll see you tonight at 7. I was like, damn. Rupe's got some game. Cleans up pretty good for a garbage man. He must have plenty of money because he's got a convertible.
Yeah, because he's doing shit that don't nobody else want to do. Picking up garbage.
Yeah, garbage men actually make pretty good money.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, they make pretty good money, actually. Just nobody wants that job. Look, I get it.
Right.
But if you got to do it, like, it ain't the worst job. So Rupe goes to her house.
Especially this one, because he's like, no, I ain't picking that up. It's over 100 pounds, buddy.
Yeah, he was talking. She was like talking shit to the white dude. Like, no.
Surely was.
It was like, how about you put your garbage in there, and then in there, and then I'll swing back around and get it. Otherwise,
rich white people too.
Nah, right.
Yeah, he ain't give a fuck.
What you gonna do?
Rich white people that she was working for.
Right. Yeah, he really didn't give a fuck. Like that's how much
why
power
she was like, she was like, oh, he don't give a damn with this white man thing. Let me run him down.
Yeah, she really did.
Give him my address.
That's how you know a woman really likes you. She running out in her work clothes, like, hey, here's my address. Like, that never happens. So Rupe goes to see her, at her place to pick her up, and she's got mad kids. I'm not dating a woman with 6 children. Like, that's crazy.
Nah. The look on his face. Me and my wife were watching this, and she was like, "Yeah, wait till he gets it, and then the look on his face. This is some stellar non-acting. This is some stellar non-speaking acting from James Earl Jones. He's just like, like you could hear his inner monologue, without him saying a word.
Like, there's too many of these motherfuckers in here. God damn. And they all different shades too. Like,
and they're all but they're older, mostly older kids, except for like the youngest two.
Yeah, I mean, it's not enough. Like he's
moving
out. He's out of the like the 100% like need to take care of these kids phase, right? Like they can fend for themselves at least.
Yeah, there's still 6 of them. They still outnumbered.
Yeah, it's a lot of them,
And those kids were not having it. They were just like,
those kids were assholes to him. They were
rude as fuck.
Yeah, they were great. So she's got one older boy, one older girl, and then the other 4 are like preteen down to sort of like 6, maybe 5 or 6, right?
Yeah, maybe a little younger.
So the thing is, she couldn't take a shower when she got home from work, and she wanted to freshen up, but Rupe got there like before she could get home because she had to go grocery shopping or something. So she agrees. Boy, 1974 is a wild time. She agrees to go back to this dude's apartment so she could take a bath there because her kids were using the bathroom, so she could take a bath there, and then they were going to go out. Like, she really liked this dude.
Yeah, my 2023 sensibilities kicked in because I was like, "What the hell?" I was like, first of all, when Rupe was like, "You motherfucker, come in and wait until your mom get out," and one of the kids was like, "No," my mother said, "No strangers or whatever," and that part made me go, And then when she gets to his house and he runs her a bath, he tries to like, like
take her clothes off and shit.
Yeah, I was like, I was like, I don't like this.
And she was just like, boy, stop playing. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Like, and it happened like twice. He was like,
right.
No.
Like,
yeah, like, the 70s is wild. Like, it's a wild time. Because if you played that for people now, they'd be like, nah, this is assault. Like, this is a wild moment.
If they remade this movie today,
nah, you gotta cut that scene.
They have to cut that scene.
Nah, I don't think a woman would go to another dude's house to take a bath. Like,
that's another thing. I'm not. If it's a first date, I'm not going to your house. Well, okay, maybe I would, but I'm definitely not going there to take a bath.
I was like, don't lie when Tinder exists. Y'all all at each other's houses.
I'm not on Tinder. I don't know what you're talking
about.
No,
not you. I'm just saying you're in the Tinder generation.
Sure, but I'm not going to take a bubble bath of all things.
Yeah, she getting mad relaxed.
Yeah, no, just I would have been like, can we just go out to eat or something, or take a walk?
But she stank. Scrubbing the white man's floors.
Well, according to him, she smelled like a fresh field of flowers because he works with garbage.
Yeah, well, he was trying to get to her field of flowers.
He said,
like, he ain't give a shit.
He said, you smell like a nice glass of pineapple juice. What the fuck? Pineapple juice?
Yeah. That's how they used to get them back in the day.
Boy,
cold press.
James Earl Jones was smooth in this movie. It was a little weird. Not gonna lie.
Is it a bit weird seeing? Yeah, is it a bit weird seeing? Like King Joffrey, like trying to get like a woman's panties off. It's a bit weird.
It's
Like,
and
it's
well,
strange.
and then when he actually does it, and they're like making out, I was like, yeah, this is a little much.
It's like watching your granddad. You're like,
Yeah,
hey, yo,
I
Darth
didn't
Vader,
really
yo,
wanna-
you gotta relax.
I didn't really want to see Darth Vader's ass in this movie, yo. And it's quite a few shots of it. Yo. Like, all right,
And
dude.
like,
All right,
and when
calm
they were
down.
kissing each other, it looked like he was like devouring like half her face. I was like, yo, there's tongue all up in this, and I don't need to see this.
Yeah, it's a little wild. It's a little wild. Eventually, Rupe gets tired of waiting for Claudine, and so he's like knocking on the door, like, hey, you in there? Did you drown? Which I thought was just a fucking hilarious statement. And so he uses a credit card to open the door. All right, you got a little shady background there, buddy. And then he wakes her up, and she's like, oh, hold on a second. And I'm like,
Well, he
Miss-
also kind of puts his. He also kind of like.
no, he
It
holds
looked like-
her hand. He holds her hand. He wasn't trying to.
Okay.
He wasn't trying to like dip in there. He was just trying to.
But
he
I
was
see,
just-
I see why you might have thought that. You know what I mean?
yeah, of
'Cause
course,
he's
of
like,
course.
Let me take your blouse off. 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 You did that whole 50 no's and a yes is still a yes thing. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm
like,
surprised he
come on.
didn't. I'm surprised he wasn't just standing next to the bubble bath trying to blow the bubbles off the top of the
Well-
water. Like,
When she wakes up and she pulls the towel over her chest, he's like, "What you going and hiding for?" I'm like, "Yo, chill." like if she's there, guess what? You look, she's probably going to sleep with you. Like it's happening. You don't need to do anything else.
nah, you can't make that assumption. Don't do that to Diahann Carroll. She ain't going to get.
You're right.
up.
You're right. I'm
So-
I'm clearly
So,
projecting.
yeah, you're judging her. Smash cut. They have chicken and bang. Like, it immediately happens. I did think it was really funny that they were supposed to. He was like, "I'm taking your mother out." Like, he had a really great line. I don't remember exactly what it was, but he's like, when he's talking to the kids, he's like, "I'm taking your mother out. We're having Clams Casino." It was all like very like what 70s fancy food was at the time. I was like, "Ugh, Clams Casino, gross." But he goes through all this like, we're getting a nice bottle of wine and all this other stuff, and the daughter's like, it's gonna end up chicken anyway. Like, she was like, niggas ain't shit. And then at the end of the day, because she fell asleep, he was like, "Oh, you want me to order a bucket of chicken?" She's like, "Don't forget the fries." Like that was the date. And then they have some chicken. He opens a bottle of Ripple, I guess, and then they have sex.
Gross.
I distinctly remember getting made fun of on this podcast when I said that I find old people having sex repulsive. And while these two aren't old,
I'm 36.
it was back in the day when everybody looked old. So yeah.
Well, she looks 36.
James Earl Jones is not a good kisser. Like, what is happening?
Yo,
It's
it's
making
so
me uncomfortable.
weird.
Yo.
It's
Yo,
He
like
looks like
James.
a fish, yo. He looks like a fish. He looks like a fish trying to like.
Like, I don't know if it's the position.
all right,
Like, he's trying
all
to
right.
he's trying to lean back.
no, it's
like,
it's also it is definitely part of the position because I was like, this looks very like he looks like he's just like completely just putting all 200 pounds of his weight on her and it's like halfway down her body, and it looks like he's trying to reach up. When I'm like, you don't have to just move up a few inches and kiss her normally. It was strange.
Yeah, it was like, dude, relax. Like, it was just like, wow. He was like, oh shit, I got a chance to make out with Diahann Carroll. I'll make this shit, make it count. Like, she's like, all right, James,
Gross.
relax. So yeah, they have sex, and he kills a mouse at the same time, and then he flushes it down the toilet. She was like, make sure there's James Earl Jones's ass. She's like, yeah, make sure you wash your hands before you come back. I'm like, why are you ruining this stellar kissing
She-
moment. With
He was
me
about to
getting a
walk in
mouse.
back, and she was like, "Did you wash your hands?" He turned right back around. I was like, "Ew!" I was like, "Girl, you gotta leave."
But it is a sad commentary, right? That like black people are so used to living amongst rats and roaches, they're just like, yeah, no, that's fine. Just wash your hands, and then we just get back to it. Like, it's kind of ruining the moment for me, actually. But yeah,
So, actually,
go
you know what? There's this guy I met here. No longer talking to him because he was very weird, and he told me about an apartment that he has here in Hollywood that's for mad cheap.
I agree, Micah. First answer.
No. Maybe because that's California, so niggas out there are weird.
So, trying to make it as an actor for like a while. And he was like, "Yeah, I got this like Matt."
You're better than that. You're better than that. Go ahead,
Micah. That was not my face when he was telling me this. I was very
no,
okay.
that's not. I know. I
don't know.
I've known
a weird
this nigga
black
since I was
dude in
14,
California. A weird black dude from California trying to make it as an actor. I just thought of someone. That's
yeah. I've known this nigga since I was 14. I knew exactly who you were talking about. Yeah, you know.
I feel like there's several people I could be thinking of who you're referring to, but I'll ask after this.
He's been on this show before.
All right, no, y'all gonna have to put it like, tell me.
It's Deacon. Okay. It's Deacon. He's the weirdo. He's the weirdo.
Oh, Deacon. Aww.
No, look, he out there making it. He gonna be on Abbott Elementary soon.
But he's like, yeah, I got this from Mad Cheap in Hollywood, and like the sense of everything. And I was like, oh, is it because you've been there for a long time? He was like, no, you just make some sacrifices. Like, you don't mind roaches every now and then, but I don't have roommates. And I was like, okay.
I do in fact mind roaches every time. Like every time.
He was like, he said so casually that he said when he was like every now and then, I'm thinking like, what does every now and then actually mean? I was like, well, best luck to your career. And he was like, I'm going to be the next Brad Pitt and Samuel Jackson. They didn't need social media to make it. I don't need social media to make it. And, I'm just going to further my dream. And I said, that's great.
Wow.
Good luck with the roaches.
That's cool. And y'all just are just not going to get married because of the welfare system. But y'all got a kid on the way. So that's good. That's good. That's good for y'all.
I'm just gonna pay I'll just take a trip to Planned Parenthood if I can.
Wow.
I'm gonna do what Charles so disrespectfully told his mama later in the movie.
Yeah. Why don't you just get rid of me? God damn.
If you love me, why don't you just kill me? I'm like, you dumb. I was like, all right. I know. I've met people like you. A lot of you are still around.
Like, yo, there are bridges everywhere. Yo, you don't have to be here. just jump off if you want to go that bad. I'm kidding. So yeah, they have sex. And while they're having their post-coitus conversation, the phone rings, and like it happens, I think 3 different times. Like 2 of them are for Claudine, and one Claudine picks it up, assuming that it is for her the 3rd time, but it's actually some woman named Cheryl calling for Rupe. And they go back to sleeping together or whatever, and she's like, "Who's Cheryl?" He's like, "Let's just make out." Like one of my many women that I have. So like, and I love the scene afterwards, right? He goes to take her home. It's mad early in the morning. He's got to go to work. He's a garbage man. So it must be super early because garbage men get started pretty fucking early in the morning. But he takes her back. And she's really smitten with him and vice versa. And she's like, "Look, you gotta go because you gotta go to work and everything else." And he's like, "Look, I'll be fine. Like, don't worry about it." Because he's love drunk where you think you can be up all night and shit, which is crazy. Like, nah.
Wait, did we pass a scene where she talks about when they talk about kids and stuff, like his kids?
No, we haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay, all right.
Was that on the first date? I thought that was like on their second date.
I thought that was a little later.
Yeah, I think it's a little later.
Yeah, okay, that's probably a little later. Okay.
So smash cut to Claudine dealing with her 6 kids. This scene is hilarious. I believe Terrence was like, yeah, have you ever seen that scene where it's her and her 6 kids and they in the kitchen just fucking wilding? And he's right, because they're saying all sorts of wild shit to her, which is not acceptable.
The way that one kid smacked their brother, I was like, yo, what? And it wasn't like a tap. It was like a solid bop.
Yeah, for real. Like, yo, you gotta relax. So they're like, what time did you get home? You going out with this garbage man? And like they're questioning, like, you know, you're gonna marry this guy, you're gonna have kids with this guy. And the oldest son, a young Joe Jackson, is like, the last thing we need is another nigga around here. Which, I mean, there's 6 of them, so I get it.
And I think it was also when he dropped her back home, when she was like, I have to get in the house because there's a nosy lady my neighbors are going to be watching me or something like that. Yeah. And I thought it was like a throwaway line, but it comes up later.
Yeah. It absolutely does. So then, a couple days later, next day maybe, Rupe comes over to meet the family, and they are not impressed. Especially the older 2. They don't fuck with him at all. He's trying though. Like he does what any person in Micah's family would do. He throws money at the problem by buying these kids ice cream. He tries to buy them off. He was like, how much is ice cream? Like 20 cents. All right, get 6 of them. Get the hell out of here. And again, like this idea of dating a woman with 6 kids couldn't be me. I couldn't be me, yo. That's a lot of kids.
Why, Jay?
Nah, like single me? No, because that's just add me and it's like that's an instant family. Add me and stir. No, I'm good.
What if you have other
like kids? One kid is
that
like that's not terrible, but 6 is a lot.
Well, when you're 40 and she's 36, like
that's different.
I feel like that argument just kind of is BS, right? Like you can't
expect people to not have kids at that point,
right?
No, that would be very silly.
You actively looking, that would be dumb.
I need,
but
40-year-old woman.
To your point, but to your point. 6 is enough. 6 is a basketball starting 5 and a bench.
Yeah, like, that's a lot of kids, yo. That's a lot of kids,
yo.
And look, and Rupe's point, like to his buddies and everything else, is like just trying to have fun, man. Because I'm not trying to get married. Because I don't want to get pulled into the system with all of these kids. Right. And referring to the welfare system, which again, I get it. So then we see they're at Claudine's house. She has to hide all of these gifts that Rupe may have brought her, like a toaster and stuff like that, because the welfare lady is there, and she needs to check in to make sure that Claudine isn't working. Right, because that would be a fraud violation, and that she's not housing some man who's giving her a bunch of gifts, because all those gifts have to be deducted from the amount of money. I guess the value of those gifts have to be deducted from the money that the federal government is giving her, which never makes any sense to me. Like I understand that happened, but that doesn't make any sense. So if I buy you a television. Like, Rupe has that whole conversation. He's like, so if I buy her a TV that had nothing to do with the state or you, she gets hurt by that. Like
Yeah.
the welfare system at the time, and I don't think like gifts are an issue anymore. I think that's been largely changed. But like that implies that the exact level that you are at with the federal government's help when you start, they don't ever want you to rise above that. They don't ever want you to have anything above that, which is fucked up.
Right.
Like that's sort of a fucked up system. So speaking of fucked up system, let's talk about some statistics. Let's take a break from the movie for a second, because this shit is really fascinating to me. I some of this I had no idea about. Others are a little bit more understanding. From 1890 to 1950, black women had a higher marriage rate than white women. Did you know that? Not interesting. Considering that we're always told that like black families, or black men and black women were never together, right? Which has implications even today. And in the 1950s, just 9% of black children lived without their fathers. 9%, which is nuts. In 1964, which is when these welfare expansions happen, these major welfare expansions happen, the black out of wedlock births was 24.5%, right, in 1964. Do you want to guess what that percentage was by 1994? Just throw a number up.
50%?
70.7%.
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah. So we are over 70%. And I think that number is pretty consistently that high. Over 70% of black children are born out of wedlock. Now, I am a person, product of a single mom, right? My parents were not married. I am one of these, I'm of the 70%. I just find that really sad. And like, I'm not some like, you gotta have a man in the home to raise a boy type of shit. Like, that's not exactly true. I think that's a very like weird view of the world. It's pretty myopic, but not having two parents, I think, does make a difference. Just because kids are hard and you need, you got to like tag team. Micah, I'm sure, can speak to this as well as I can. Like, you got to have somebody to push off of.
That's why we start this show so late, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
We can't both put both of them. We can, but you can't do it every day. You can't just take both of them every day and go through the routine and stuff. It's hard, which is why I'm baffled at single parents, especially ones that have 6 children in a house.
Yeah, and you didn't kill any of them.
Like, right.
And I don't mean abortion. I mean like when they're 8, you just like fight that nigga. Like, yo, that's crazy. Like 70% is insanely high. Here's another interesting statistic, and this is one I was alluding to earlier. The benefits available to single mothers in 1975, so right around the time this movie was made, quote, this is from a report, quote, estimated that in 1975, a household head would have to earn $20,000 a year to have more resources than what could be obtained by the Great Society programs. So you have to make $20,000 to beat out what welfare was offering. In today's dollars, that's over $90,000 per year.
Oh my God.
So again, when people say that the welfare system was purposely rigged against black people, that actually isn't correct. It's that America's shitty system is so fucked up for black people that even giving people equivalent of $90,000 a year by today's standards is still not workable because of the jobs that are even available to black people at the time.
Right.
And that's still true today, right? Like, black people that you see who are successful don't have to be on fucking Snap, right? Like, they don't have to be. But if you have to be, you're most likely either you lack job training, you have a disability, or
Right.
you have some other reason that you can't, or lack of education, stuff like that. So
Yep.
the jobs that you could get if you weren't on SNAP are super fucking low.
Yep.
Now, like, is SNAP giving out $90,000 a year worth of benefits now? No. Like those numbers, because that has been decreased over time, right? Like legislation has decreased that number over time. But in 1975, that was the equivalent. So you can see why Claudine in 1974 was still struggling, because even if you're making $90,000, let's say it's by today's standards, even if you were making $90,000, you got 6 kids.
Right.
What is the cost of and they live in New York. Like, what is the cost of an apartment and food and everything else? That $90,000 goes by the wayside quite quickly. So
a family of 4 can't live in the Bay Area off of a 6-figure salary.
No, hell no.
That's so wild to me.
You can make you can make, even if you're making 120, 140, if you have a family, it's just not enough. I mean, it's hard enough even if you're a single person. So imagine
that's
Jesus.
crazy. Yeah. So that is, to me, when I was reading these stats, I was like, oh, it's the American system that is rigged. I mean, look at the jobs that Rupe and Claudine have. She's a housekeeper and he's a garbage man. Neither one of them are working at whatever law firm, right? They're not middle management. They have menial jobs, unfortunately. And his job is a well-paid.
Did we get a sense of how much Rupe was making? Because there was one scene in this movie where Rupe is like, "I'll be lucky if I can even make $9,000 this year." Did we get a sense of how much he was making as a garbage person?
I mean, if you're talking about getting $20,000 at the time from welfare, he was probably making about maybe 10. Maybe if he's lucky, 13,000, right?
Yeah.
So again, if he marries Claudine loses her benefits. Let's say she loses pretty much all of it. Let's say she's getting 20,000, right? Just for example's sake. Let's say she's getting 20,000 right now. Let's say they drop it considerably, but because she got 6 kids, the government's like, well, we're not going to drop all of it. But they drop her down to $5,000. Rupe makes, let's say, 10 or 13. Okay, so that's 18,000. What's her job pay? $5,000 a year? She's a house worker.
Right.
How are they supposed to survive on that? So that's what, 23,000, right? More or less 23,000, which is a little bit more than the government's giving you. But again, they got 6 kids, and
6
now,
kids,
right? But now you also have Rupe, who also eats, right? That's still,
and
that's
Rupe,
still more.
who has other children,
right? Because he has to pay alimony to those other kids because he's got 6 kids. I think he has
6. I think
he
has
said 3 somewhere, and then
3.
three,
He
maybe
has 3
5.
kids.
Oh, okay. Is it only 3?
Yeah, I think he just has 3 kids.
Okay, so he's got another 3 that he's got to pay alimony to as well.
Yep.
How are you supposed to make it? So, again, when people talk about black people being on welfare and how they're sucking from the system and all this other stuff, understand that the system is literally designed to pull you in and keep you where you are. It is not designed to pull you in, help you, and then send you on your way. That's not what it's designed to do. Because if you get unemployed, they say in the movie, if you become unemployed, you have to file for fucking welfare. So it pulls you into the system if you lose your job.
And it's a point of contention in this movie when they ask, well, what happens if we get married? Because for a moment they were like, that was up in the air. Did they want to get married so that way he even gets sucked into the system and she loses her benefits?
Right.
That was a real conversation in this film.
Right.
Isn't that funny? People used to get married to pool their resources together to make more money. Mm-hmm. But if you're poor, it's literally the opposite.
It hurts you.
Yep.
Yeah, it was funny. The article I got this this information from is interesting because it was like, yeah, this really hurt black families. And they didn't really truly realize until it started hurting poor white families. Because then their rates of marriage started plummeting as well. And it's literally because if we have this kid together, we can raise the kid together, but we got to be in separate spaces because otherwise we can't survive. I'm just like, Jesus Christ, man. And, and it's funny because as I watch the movie, I wonder, are the sort of societal reasons that black women and black men have so much animosity towards each other also a huge product of this, right? Black men are never in the home. They're not there. Well, yeah, because for a generation or two, that's been broke. They broke that. They broke it. So when your father or your grandfather
is literally that character.
Right.
Charles is literally the embodiment of that thought process. He has so much animosity towards his mother.
Right. And towards Rupe as well. Because he doesn't, like, as much as animosity as he has towards his mother, he also doesn't want to see his mother victimized again.
Right.
Right? Which he takes to a very extreme measure, by the way, later on. Relax. But, like, probably. Like, that's probably not a bad idea. But, it's like that idea of why black men and black women have so much animosity towards each other easily could be grounded in a grandfather not being, like somebody's grandfather being like, I can't stay here because I can't, help with the money. And if I stick around, it's going to fuck your life up and all this other shit. That happens. Well, then that person's kids, that guy and that woman's kids, they grow up with the mom, right? And let's say they have a little girl, right? Well, she grows up to see that men aren't around when they're supposed to be. And so then she has animosity towards her own father, rightfully so. But she doesn't understand the situation of why he had to leave, right? So then she cycles in, she meets somebody, she picks up and eventually grows up, dates somebody, has a kid, right? She doesn't get married either. Because that other person has also seen a society in which the men in their household weren't there either. So then you're 3 and 4 generations of people who are just separated. And then people look up in 1995 and you're like, niggas ain't shit, black women ain't shit. And you hate each other and you don't know why. Because of this government program that broke your fucking great-grandparents apart. Right? Or your grandparents.
Rupe is also goes through part of that as well when he leaves for a bit. And he explains, he didn't say everything you said, but like, and so in the essence of what you said is what he says in his film too, about when he leaves for a little bit. Yeah.
Like, how can you expect black people to create family units when you literally have broken it for multiple generations? And I say the following statement not to sound like black people are infantile. I'm saying it. I'm saying the following statement because I think it is actually true and it's not their fault. They literally don't know how. You learn relationships by mimicking that of your parents. How the fuck do you even know how to have a relationship? Like, you learn to be in a marriage by watching your parents' marriage. That's what you do, right? Like, you do. There's only one of the 3 of us here who grew up with both of their parents there the whole time, right? What the fuck does that say, right? If Terrence was on, Terrence lost his dad when he was a teenager. So he's sort of like a 50-50 thing. But, that was his stepdad, right? So, again, the cycle even hits our generation right now.
Right.
Do people understand that? Do people realize that fucking history? When you talk about black men not being there, when you talk about black women not wanting to marry these dudes, you talk about not having enough money and stuff like that, you have to understand the shit that comes before it.
Right.
The thing that drives me crazy is giving facts without context. This is context. The black family has been destroyed by a situation that they thought they were trying to help black people, but they never took the time to realize that they had already rigged the system so badly for us so many years before that they couldn't even help us. Which weirdly goes back to one major point. Black people should probably get reparations. Like, we really should. Because this shit is so broken and lopsided, you can't fix it by being even. You simply cannot fix it by being even. You have to give us outsized support for a while, maybe a generation or two, and white people just gotta be mad. You want to fix it and you really want to get shit even? That's kind of what you need. But we'll never get that. But we'll never get
No,
it.
we'll never get that.
Hell.
We barely get equality. We barely get equality. We're
We don't.
not going to get equity. Like,
Oh, hell no.
So, yeah.
This is what I liked about the movie, because those kind of thoughts were spurred in me. I was like, all right, like that makes sense. That makes sense. Like when you start to see the domino effect of just breaking that family for a breaking the idea of black families for a generation or two. Yeah. Like it does build wayward kids. It does. Right? Like,
and then I say, in this movie, seeing the cycle repeating itself. I mean, yes. This is a comedy, but you start to see it a little repeat itself, and you hear Claudine say, well, what are you going to do? And the character in question says, well, we'll get married and figure it out. And Claudine's like, y'all only make one salary together. And, obviously the story doesn't tell you what happens to her later on, but it's just, you can assume that she's going to be in the same position as her mother.
Yeah.
Sadly.
And guess what? I know there are people listening or who talk about this shit who say, well, listen, why do these poor people keep having all these kids? Here's an easy way to understand it. When you're poor, sex is free and it's fun. That's why people have a lot of kids. Because you ain't got no money to do shit else,
Xbox, yo. Like you can't,
for real.
You can't afford. It sounds like a joke. It's not. Like you can't afford to do anything else.
That's why look, it's not happenstance that the poorest places in the world crank out the most fucking kids. What else you got to do? We sitting around the hut like, well, we could be like, you know what? You're right. That does feel good. Life kind of sucks. Yeah, that's why. So if your life sucks and it's full of hardship, guess what? You tend to bang a little bit more, like you do, right? What is it? The hobosexuals, right? Like those people just trying to surf your couch, give you a little dick and then move on. Yeah, they're bums. This is true. This is true. So yeah, like that's why you don't see rich people having like mad kids. They don't. they don't. They got too many distractions.
Also, I mean, when you're in a better financial situation, you have better access to healthcare to prevent
100%. Condoms, pill,
birth control.
Birth control. Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Abortions. If you choose to have one.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Look, you can say all the shit you want. All that like, abortion has killed so many potential black children and all this other stuff. Dude, 70% of children are born out of wedlock. Just for us. Like, people need birth control options. Now, I would hope that they would use something before you get pregnant, but people need options. Because not everybody wants to have 6 kids and get stuck into the cycle. They don't. And I
got the feeling that
to not want that.
And this is just me thinking about Claudine a little bit. I would have loved to learn more if she even wanted to have 6 kids, because she even says, she had a marriage and an almost marriage,
right,
from which those 6 kids came.
Right.
Made me wonder, like, did she even want even all of those kids?
Right. And again, if she was married, let's say she had 2 or 3 kids.
Yep.
What's wrong with that? It's the most American thing. Is more American than apple pie. You get married, you have kids, right?
Yep.
That's what most people do. But then she gets a divorce, or he runs out, or he dies, or whatever, and then she meets another person. Hey, we're getting married. Like, let's be fruitful and multiply. And then he's like, I'm out. Then you're stuck with 6 kids. It's not like she doesn't have 6 kids by 6 different dudes because she's just out there like that. Like, that's not what's happening.
Do you think it matters, or do you think it's interesting that they never bring up where those kids' fathers are?
I mean, I think that plays to the narrative, right? They're gone, right? Like they are not there, and they are not.
Like they don't even give a reason. Like, we don't know if one of them died or they skipped out of town. I think you get the sense from Charles that they skipped out of town on her.
I think so.
But like, I do think it's interesting that to the large plot that doesn't even they felt no need to really give any explanation for that.
Yeah, and that may be speaking to the commonality of it, right? Yeah. I mean, look, here's a personal story. My grandfather, he did this. Like, my grandmother had 2 kids with him. They were married, had 2 kids. She was pregnant, and he just bounced. Like, it's gone. Like, to the point where they didn't see him. They didn't see him until, like, he was an old man. Like, he passed away a couple years ago, but, like, they have a brother, like a half brother or whatever, like, but he just bounced. Like, it was just like, I'm out, and just left my grandmother high and fucking dry with 2 kids and pregnant.
Jesus,
right? Like, I didn't come from some rich, fancy fucking stock where it's like, Jay was living on a fucking mountain, like, in some beautiful rich house. No, this shit is very much real life for me. And then my who I always refer to as my I guess step grandfather, if that's a real term, he met my he was the Rupe of the situation, except he was like 5'4".
Did he have other kids too?
No.
In other states?
No.
2 other states like Rupe does?
Nah, yeah. Nah, it was just him. But he met my grandmother. It was like, here's a bucket of chicken and some Ripple, like, type of shit. And they got married and they had 1 other kid, right? So my aunt. But yeah, he married my grandmother with 3 kids. Right? He was a good dude. But like, this is their story. Like, it's just kind of fucking wild. So I just that idea of what happens to these people when you are put into the system is fucking crazy to me. Now, I don't know, my grandmother's, she's, she's long past now, but like, I don't know my grandmother's situation as far as like welfare, because she always worked, but she had to, because Black women never really had the option to not work.
Right.
But she worked as a nurse, right? Like, she had a good job, but how the fuck do you take care of 3 kids? Like, what are you supposed to do when you're at work? I don't know how my grandmother made that shit happen. I have no idea. Amazing. I have no idea.
Also, going back to just like we mentioned how the system's meant to suck you in and keep you there. Claudine is 36 years old, and her oldest child is like 17, 18.
Mm-hmm.
So for almost 20 years, you can assume that she's been in this cycle. Probably, and the only other time when she was probably out of it, you can probably assume, is when she met the other guy who fathered her children.
Right.
And now she's back in it. That's
yeah. And you also don't know if she grew up in it too. Chances are, if she has this cycle of 6 kids and her daughter is now likely going to get pulled in the cycle, she was probably in the cycle herself. So just can't get out of it. It's really fucking difficult. So Claudine is basically like, listen, she's still hooking up with Rupe, but she's like, listen, this is getting really tough. You're around and everything else, but we might be coming to the end of this experiment, as she calls it. And like Rupe is trying to connect with the kids, and there's a great sequence of moments where he connects with each kid of the younger kids. The one kid who doesn't like to speak and he says he's invisible and everything else. He connects with him by just sitting with him and just playing around with him, right? And that connects with him. The slightly older one is just skipping school and shooting dice all day, because he apparently doesn't have ability to do math very well. He connects with him by going to shoot dice with him, and then he's like, "Yeah, you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide. You're doing it right now with all the money you're earning, shooting dice. Like, get your ass back in school." But it's an old school mentality of like, a man's got to come in and step in and like, lay down the law for these wayward kids. But I don't think it's so much really that. I know people will take that from it, but it just feels like you need a second parent. Like you just need a second person to just like come in while you're working or while you're down to kind of like lift the family back up. That's why two gay people can raise kids just fine, right? Like you don't need two men. You don't need, it doesn't have to be a man and a woman. It doesn't. It just needs to be, it's better to have two, just to give the other person a break, just to share the load, spread the wealth of what it takes to raise kids. So he connects with them. They try to go and get the oldest son, a young Joe Jackson, from his sort of activist situation, but he's kind of refusing to go. So Rupe doesn't jump in the way of that. He's just like, nah, I'm just going to let it rock.
He's grown to the point where you can't like. Part of parenting is you gotta know when to step back and let a kid experience something, and you can't. It's not, in my opinion, it's not healthy to hover.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't. Of course, you want the best for your kid. I want the best for most people, but at the same time,
most people.
Some people I just like. You could fuck off. I don't really give a shit. Yeah. But you got to let a kid fall and get up. You can't just coddle them all the time.
She can't hear me because.
And so I understand. And she was like, and Claudine was like, "Aren't you going to say something?" It's like, nope, I know what to do. And I think Rupe's kids are all slightly older. I think he only has 3, but I think they're slightly older than even Cochise.
Yes, from Cooley High.
But yeah, I agree with you. It's you need, parenting is hard, man. Like yeah. I admire people who are strong enough to do it, but at the same time, I would never want to do it. I would fall apart.
Oh, single parent.
Single parenting. I would never want to be a single parent. I don't
know how my mom did it. I really don't know how my mom did it. I swear to God, I have no idea. Like, how? Like, no, because parenting is hard enough. And you got to have somebody to be like, can you just, like, my wife and I, we operate on WWE tag team rules. Like, I tap you in, like I tap myself in, like, take a break. You needed that.
Yeah,
you need it. You just drive yourself crazy.
We alternate. I asked my boy, I begged her, I was like, can I please put the baby to bed today? Because I am tired. And it takes longer to put the baby to bed, but it's more peaceful. Whereas it doesn't take longer to put the toddler to bed, but it's a pain in the ass.
Not distract.
It's one that I welcome, but like, if I don't have to do it, I don't want to do it. You know what I mean?
I totally understand. So the social worker comes to the house, surprise, and she's like, "Let me check all your shit. Make sure you're not trying to scam us, scam the federal government." And for some reason, Rupe is real bad at hiding. Like, yo, don't walk across the hallway,
you big
dog.
ass, yo. Like, what the fuck?
Stay where you are. And she catches him, and she's like, "Oh, so you're the one who's been, like hanging out here and everything else." And she's like, "What's your name?" He's like,
Simpson.
Simpson. And she's like, "Simpson what?" He goes, "Simpson X." He's like, "You heard of Malcolm X, right?" Yeah, that's me, Simpson X. Which is pretty funny. And so basically they give the rundown of like all of the things that you've been bringing her. We've got to like reduce that out of her budget that she gets from the federal government. And he calls him out like, "Hey, I bought her this TV set. It's got nothing to do with you or the government. Why is she being penalized? Like, you can't."
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. It quite literally doesn't make any sense. Again, but that was my point earlier. Like, at the time, the welfare system wanted you to be like caught up in it, but never upgrade your station.
Right.
Like, that's the only reason to keep that rule in place. Like, you can't have any gifts. Why the fuck not? Who cares? If somebody wants to buy me a free TV, like, give me a free TV, who am I to turn it down?
Right.
Like, that sounds like
didn't cost you anything.
Right. Like, if you were saying the person was like, I understand the idea of like not working, though I disagree with it. Like, I understand that because that's, that's you're saying that you need help because you have no job and then you secretly have a job. Like, that makes sense, right? But no, the gifts doesn't.
It gives me the vibes. Go ahead, Micah.
The gifts thing from the government's perspective is, well, what's to stop this person from giving you a paycheck every 2 weeks?
Right.
And which is
ludicrous.
Insane. Right? Like that, but that's the way government thinks.
Sure.
That's the way people who say, "I'm just doing my job," like that's the way they think. But they don't think. You know what I mean?
Just fucking automatons. That woman really bugged me. Like, look, like, I'm just doing my job. Shouldn't be a phrase to take away your own humanity. Like, it just shouldn't be. Look, break the rules. Nobody gives a fuck. Like, they don't give a fuck.
I mean, even Claudine calls her out in an earlier scene when she's like, "Don't you have a man at home that buys you stuff?" And the social worker's like, "Girl, that ain't none of your business." She's like, "Yeah, and it's also none of yours. This one buys me stuff."
Yeah, like, "Oh, my man buys me a bottle of wine." She's like, "Well, good. Mine buys me a case of beer." Yeah, I was like, damn. Like, damn, a 6-pack? It's fucked up. So from there, like, they have another intimate time at Rupe's house. And, Claudine is getting upset because she's like, "Listen, this situation is fucked up." And he's like, "Look, I'm not going to be put on the hook for this and everything else." And he's not trying to be an asshole, but that kind of comes off as kind of an asshole.
It definitely came out that way.
Yeah. So he's like, "Look, tomorrow we're going to go down to that welfare office," because he wants to marry her. And he's like, "We're going to go down to that welfare office and we're going to find out like what's what. Like, we're going to see what's the deal." And they're like, "Look, you need to fill out all these forms so we can find out how much you make and find out how much of your benefits you're going to lose, basically, if you marry her." Right. And, and again, that's very worrying because now it would be 8 people would be eating off of, whatever limited government assistance plus Rupe's job. And he gives a great speech, basically like, if I if I lose my job, I have to join the welfare system. If I work while I'm in the welfare system, then I'm a fraud.
Right.
If I don't work, then I'm just some lazy, shiftless nigga who don't do nothing all day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, but if I try to marry her, then, and I'm trying to like make, do right by her, then we suffer even worse. And he also makes a point to the woman in the previous scene, the other social worker, like, your setup, she's like, well, we have no problem with a man staying at the house as long as you don't get married, right? Because then we'll have to drop your benefits. He's like, so you would advocate for having some dude just laying around the house all day, like not married. Like, what kind of example is that setting for the kids?
Right.
What kind of example do you set right now? They're courting. He's like, I'm not the government. So like that like double-edged sword is crazy.
There's really no way to win.
No, it's not.
None.
It's funny you sent me this clip, and the Instagram post, the caption was like, "This is why we need to get off government assistance and use our own resources."
So they didn't understand the movie at all.
Yeah, that's why I was like, "Is he sending me?" I thought you were tripping. I was like, "Is this?"
No,
about
I didn't
the
even
clip?
read that. Yeah, I didn't read that.
Or is this about the we need to have our own black people money? Like,
no, we need our own black people money though. Like we do.
I was like, what the fuck?
Like, what's
like,
wrong with him?
Right. I was like, I hope he's not like. I hope this is about this clip. That's why I didn't respond right away, because I was like,
let me watch
see
this
where he's
real
going
quick.
with this. It's like, what the fuck? You get this thing and it's like it's on mute by default. I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
the hell is James Earl Jones yelling about?
But once I watched the clip, I was like, all right, because you were like, hey, did you watch that clip? I was like, I saw that caption. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, I should have mentioned ignore the caption. Yeah, but like that means they didn't understand the movie.
Right. This whole scene kind of encapsulates everything, the B story of this romantic comedy and drama, and yeah, it's delivered perfectly, and it's so relevant. It's sad that it's so relevant, but
yeah. I saw 26% of SNAP or welfare recipients are black in this country. 37% are white. Never forget that. Never forget that. The percentage of white people on welfare has almost always been more white people than black people. Yes, I know there are more white people in the country.
Yes. Yeah.
That's obvious, but it's not obvious in the way reporting goes. Because
this is weird.
Because they'll never say that shit. There's a lot of welfare recipients, a lot of welfare queens. Yeah, white women. Like, what are you talking about? They're the ones. Yeah, when Ronald Reagan had his whole welfare queen shit, he wasn't showing white people on it.
No,
he's showing black people. Right? So it's like, yeah, dude, we have some of the lowest earning potential in the country. So yeah, it makes sense that we would be on welfare. But what about all these poor white people y'all just seem to ignore? It's irrelevant, right? Don't worry about them. That's different. Okay. Yeah, so like 37% as of today, like I think as of 2022. So, more or less probably roughly the same. They go to Rupe's apartment, the whole family. They have a big announcement. They're going to say, like, hey, we're getting married, y'all. And then Rupert gets a letter, like a certified letter, while they're there, and it turns out his wages are being garnished because the mother of his children, whatever city they're in, is should be getting more money according to the federal government because he isn't paying enough. So he loses, I think, another like $60 or something like that. a pay,
Yeah.
which would be significant.
Yeah, quite in 1974. And they got your ass because you're in the system now.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah. So I assume the second he put in that paperwork,
yep, that's what it
they
was.
they could catch him then.
Yep.
So.
And they this is the part of the romantic comedy where the couple faces adversity.
Yes.
They're back at Rupe's apartment, and he's just like, "What the fuck am I gonna do, yo? Like, I want to marry you, but that means I got to take on you and 6 kids, and I got to take care of my other kids. Like, I don't know what the fuck to do." And look, I'm not giving a pass to every single black man that abandons his family, but this movie does illustrate something that does happen. Like, I know it's fashionable to like shit on dudes. But
yeah, we do it all.
This is right. But this is something it's very easy to sit there and just be like, well, be a man. But men have feelings too, and men and one of those feelings is fear. And some people don't know how to handle that type of fear. Like, he is distraught because he feels like society, it's weird. Society puts a tremendous amount of pressure on men to be, quote, providers, right?
Right.
And when society is also doing everything it can to take the ability away from you to provide for your family here and now, right? It's society always loves to bring up old shit. And again, I'm not saying that this dude shouldn't have had the kids with the other woman. And I'm saying I understand the breakdown that he's having.
Yeah, he's panicking. Like, he's at the end of his rope. How the fuck?
Right.
He has one moment in his recent memory where he has found this woman that he is in love with, and he's trying to do right by her. He went down to the welfare office. He's trying to do the right thing. And by doing the right thing, he completely fucked the situation.
And unfortunately, it validated his earlier point where he said, "I don't want to get sucked in. Like, I don't like."
Yep.
When they were just kind of just dating and it was fun. When he was talking to his friend and said, "I don't want to get sucked into the system." She has 6 kids.
Yeah,
and that's really unfortunate.
And I mean, listen to what he says. Like, well, what are you gonna do? I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna go work somewhere else. Like, I'm just gonna get some underground job, or I don't know, I'll be a pimp or something. Like,
well, I thought this was really interesting because this scene, I think, kind of goes back to when you mentioned earlier, Jay, about the animosity between black men and black women, because his thing is like, I can just leave. She can't do that.
Right.
And I think it was Rupe who said, I think Charles repeats it later, where both of them say to her, well, you chose to have all these kids.
Yeah, Charles says that to his mom.
Yeah. Okay, Charles says that later on. But the insinuation that Rupe's solution is to, like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Chicago and I'm gonna get a hustle, and she's just like, oh, your kids will love that. And you could just see on her face where the way she looked at him was like, you still have a choice to leave, even if it's to have an illegal hustle. Right. You can just start over. I cannot do that.
Right.
And it's like she's watching all these other, like, it seems like she's reliving the experience of having these other men who have left her too have the option to leave and start over somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right. And let me reiterate, I'm not saying that I'm saying I understand why Rupe's mind immediately goes there. I'm not saying it is what he should do. It isn't. It isn't what he did. But as a as a guy who is like, and I know everything I'm saying is going to get twisted, but I understand.
I'll
I understand the
edit it. It's no
mentality.
problem.
I understand the mentality. And to Tiara's point, nigga, get over it.
Yeah.
Like, we gotta figure shit out.
Look,
And that's
dude,
that's the right answer. You gotta figure shit out. When I lost my job after I proposed to my wife, I had a little bit of a freak out because I hated that job, but we were planning a wedding. And then my father put it in my head that, like, is it still gonna be a wedding? As if she might leave me. And
but some women
know,
would. But some women would, though. Like,
right.
not yours, not yours.
Mine,
but some women might be like, I don't know, nigga. Like,
right.
Like it's fucked up.
The fear of financial instability is real.
It is.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
It is.
That's what I'm saying.
It's from all sides. From all sides. And it's understandable.
Yeah, Mike, I think I would hope that people will listen to you and understand that you're not condoning what Rupe does. It just adds a very real context to, again, not even just like the financial instability of it, but like, remember, Rupe was presented with the very real reality that if he goes into the system and works, then he is a fraud. It's almost like he's committing a crime by trying to do the right thing.
By trying to do the right thing. By being a provider. Right?
By being a provider.
Right? Like, is one of the things that, like, and that's such a good point, right? The problem is, like, I see so many comments nowadays about, like, men need to be the providers and and like a real man is X or Y or not Z or whatever dumb fucking platitude you want to put out there to boost your social media clout. This system hurts men, and it was designed by men. And when you talk about, you care about having healthy outcomes for men to lessen male suicides and things like that, running out on their families, things like that. If you want to reduce those things, you have to break this system of putting men into small boxes and demanding they be one way or another, which I realize, much like Sideshow Bob, the irony of me saying that while being in a very small box. So on video. But, like, you have to stop treating men like that. Like, Rupert's moment in his breakdown is pitch perfect in a lot of ways, but the end of it is even more pitch perfect, which is he cries. And who was there to console him? The woman who loves him. The woman he loves, right? It's okay. It's okay, right? Like, it's okay to have those feelings. It's okay to panic. It's okay to, like, not know what you want to do.
It's okay to be a human. Right. It's okay to be a human. It's okay to have emotions. Like, men are so, like, adamant about, like, not having feelings and shit. Not loving your kids and not, letting your partner lead if for a bit, even if for just a photo. Right? Like,
right.
It's so weird. And we wonder why men don't get past this shit. Man, I can't tell you, man. Like, I when I lost my job, man, I hated that job. But I felt like I had to have it. And I thought I was ashamed for the first time since I had met my now wife. I was ashamed I was scared to tell her, and I called her and I cried because I said, well, I fucking lost my job. And she did what Claudine does. And she hugged me and she told me, we'll get through it. And we did together. And that's the right way to me.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. Like, I'm not, again, again, I'm not saying disappear, right? Like
Right.
that is not that's not me. That's not how I was raised. That's not how my parents did it. You mentioned, people kind of emulate what they see. And I've seen my parents go through some hard shit. I've seen my mother go through some hard shit. And I distinctly remember in the bad times when I asked my mother, I said, why are you, I was a little Cochise or whatever the hell his name is in this movie. I asked her, I said, why are you here? And she, why don't we just leave? And she said, I took a vow, and I made that promise before God and my family that we are going to work it out. And that stuck with me.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason I am the way I am. We are going to work it out. It was just kind of frustrating to see in this movie because, like, it was frustrating to the point where I pulled a tiara and I.
Oh, you went to Wikipedia?
Yeah. I was like, come on, yo, like, they gotta make it. They gotta make it.
They gotta make it.
Like, come on, like, I'm rooting for these. I'm rooting for these people, yo.
Welcome, Micah. Welcome. Because I did not look at Wikipedia.
Wow.
I just watched it.
Wow. Wait,
I was getting anxiety, man.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
way to send your horrendous anxiety over to Micah's house. Good job.
No,
you're infecting the rest of the podcast.
I'm glad that he understands what this experience is like, so that way next time he gets anxiety watching a movie, he can understand how this feels. And while looking up the ending.
I can't make fun of you until the next time you do it.
That's fair. Yeah, you gotta.
You know what? That feels like a challenge. And part of me is just like, I'm never going to do it again. But fuck you. I'm
She gonna do it. She gonna do it. Yeah. I don't see a situation where that never happens again. Okay.
No. Look, I don't mind looking up stuff if it makes me feel better.
So let's move along a little bit. So they have a big Happy Father's Day event at the house. They invite all their friends, and it's all for Rupe, and he doesn't show. And she goes to his job. His coworker was like, "Nah, he called in sick." Like,
that Father's Day thing made me really sad for those kids.
That's what did it, yo. I was like, "Come on, yo, come on."
I was a little worried. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't go to Wikipedia, but I was like, "Ooh, come on, Rupe, get it together, yo!" Like, because in the previous scene where he goes, "We going down to the welfare office. We gonna tell these motherfuckers like what's what," and then he goes in that big rant. He's like, "Yeah, we still getting married. Fuck these people." I was like, "See, Rupe's a good dude," and it was like he ain't come to the Father's Day thing. I was like, "Oh, come on, man." I was like, "We were just rooting for you. Come on, don't mess up." Then come to find out, her daughter is pregnant because her older brother was like, I don't know, you may want to go look at your other daughter's titties, and you can see that she's pregnant. I was like, that's a weird thing.
Yeah,
to say
and I was like, what?
Yeah,
I was like, calm down, Joe. What are you talking? What are you doing?
You gotta be a little far along before
that's a little bit more
before that starts to happen. I was just saying, like, God damn.
Yeah, that was a wild statement.
And also, what we saw wasn't much there, so maybe want to like, how hard have you been looking at your sister's chest?
Well, didn't they say he was like playing with himself in the bathroom? Like at one point, like they're like, "Did you look through the keyhole?" Which was a wild statement. So then, after Claudine starts beating her newly pregnant daughter with a brush, they sit down and talk, and it's weird because Claudine smokes regular cigarettes like you smoke weed, like a weed joint, which is just funny to me. But she's like, "Look, this was the whole point that Tiara was making. Like, you only gonna have one income, right? Like being with Abdullah, like." You're just making your life really hard. So Just prepare yourself for you
And
are
if
now
he
going to be
stays,
right. You are now
Right.
going to be in the cycle. Right. You ain't old enough, so you're probably going to stay there and then bring another child into that household. If we're being honest, that's most likely what's going to happen. Then back on the bus, from the beginning, all the women are like, I told you he wasn't shit. It's like, see, you can't trust a man. You don't need a man, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you a bunch of lying ass. And they're like, yeah, men gonna leave you. Claudine comes home and Chris is there and he's laying in the bed, being very weird. Apparently he decided to get himself a vasectomy. The other kids thought that he had perhaps cut his dick off, which is, I don't know if people know this, not how a vasectomy actually works. But
Yes,
I guess
kid.
would be,
lots of
I
these
mean,
people. Yes, it is. That's exactly how it works.
they're like, snip, little surgery.
That's
Don't
some
worry
little
about
kid ass shit too.
It
Yo, he cut his dick off? Nah, yo, I gotta find out.
I love how the other kid goes. He's like, I saw it. It's still there. Like, don't worry. Like, okay. Like, thanks
You
for that.
lying?
You lie. He's still got a penis. So Chris goes down to a bar, and eventually he finds Rupe there, who is drunk as a skunk, and he's like, "Listen, man, I told you, like, basically, I was going to kick your ass if you hurt my mom." He was like, "You did say that. You right." And through all of Rupe's like helping the other kids and pulling the other kids up, he actually needs Christopher to pull him up. To be like, yo, you need to be a fucking man. Like, knock
Wait,
the
who?
shit off.
Charles?
Or excuse me, Charles, not Chris. But he actually ends up needing Charles to kind of pull him up and be like, yo, be a fucking man to my mother. Like, I'm not going to tolerate this shit.
Yeah.
Which is the type of intergenerational stuff that actually is quite important to see. Right? Like that is the, in my opinion, that's the filmmaker saying, if anybody's going to fix this, it's going to have to be, this next generation is going to have to fix it.
And I think this is after the scene where he and Claudine have a talk, right? Outside? Or is that?
Yeah, it's after that scene.
Yeah. So in that scene, I think it's like Claudine like really just calls him out on like being like a fake revolutionary, calling him like a crybaby, because you see Charles just is quite disrespectful to his mother to the point where I'm like, you need to put he owned up to be saying that, you probably just put him out.
Right.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. It is. At the end of the fight, is like Charles is trying to hit Rupe one more time. Rupe just grabs him and like kind of bear hugs him and goes, "You made your point." Right? Like,
Yep.
he heard you loud and clear. Like, you know what? I was being a piece of shit and I wasn't doing right by your mom. And so he goes, cleans himself up. He goes over to Claudine's, and she goes out to see him. And they sit in the car while the kids are all standing there. And basically like, look, you still want to get married? Like, I was being an idiot. I fucked up. And, you know, I just needed a little bit of time to like kind of get my head straight. So, and all the kids still want him to be their stepdad and you know, do right by their mom. So they're like, yeah.
Now,
Smash.
to my credit, this is where I stopped at the Wikipedia. Once I found that,
Okay.
this is where I stopped.
All right.
Yo, that's like the last
You-
paragraph. Yo.
No.
That's like
Well,
the last
no,
paragraph.
I
You
stopped
still
right
looked.
before the last.
You can't take it back now.
I still looked. I'm not saying I take it back. I'm saying that I was still surprised by this ending because we're coming up on the ending.
Yeah,
And,
The ending was weird.
I was surprised too to see that T-Pain was officiating their wedding. That dude looks just like T-Pain. You know? It's just fucking wild. It's just absolutely wild to me. So during their wedding, we see, you can't unsee it. Like,
I see it now. I see it now.
You see Charles and a bunch of other activists trying to push jobs over welfare, and they're like fighting with these cops. They run out of a building, and eventually Charles makes it to the wedding, try to hide out at the wedding, and the cops come into the wedding and arrest him. And then like Rupe is fighting with the cops, and he throws one of the cops into the cake, and it's a little weird and get crazy. And then eventually the whole family like gets arrested, like drives off into the sunset in a paddy wagon.
They get
and I can say paddy wagon because they said paddy wagon back then.
Yeah, I mean, I was
Joe.
like, they get back into
wagon, it's
back of the
March.
police truck like willingly, and I'm like, huh.
Yeah, the kids were like,
Well, that's a
"Yay!"
choice.
I was like, the cops were helping him in, like, "Yeah, more niggas to arrest." I was like,
I'm gonna tell you this: they remake that. They decided to remake this movie. That shit will not fly.
"Oh no, you can't have black
Yeah.
children happily jumping into a paddy wagon. That's wild." Like, don't do that. But yeah, like Claudine gets into the paddy wagon because Rupe is in there, and she's like, "That's my husband," and the little girl, their daughter, is like, "That's my mom." They're like, "All right, you going to jail too?" Like, okay, this is a bit weird. And then the three boys ran, and they all jumped in too. Meanwhile, Charles is the last one to get in the paddy wagon. He's the original person they were looking for.
The revolutionary.
Yeah, he was like, "I guess I'll get in," and so they all have fun, take the paddy wagon downtown, I guess. And then it shows all of them walking hand in hand at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
very
this
sweet.
just doesn't.
Very sweet ending.
I mean, it sounds like they wanted to, end on a happy moment. You know what would have been a very happy moment to end on? A wedding.
You say that.
I just don't understand. I don't understand the choices here in having I understand the juxtaposition of this like revolutionary, like this violent act of riot, juxtaposed to this, sweet orderly act of a wedding. Right, like I get the juxtaposition, but it just didn't go anywhere. I would rather the juxtaposition just not be there, and they just have a wedding and just have a wacky wedding, right? Like, and if you're gonna, I don't know. That's the one thing about this movie that I didn't really understand, but I'm not knocking the movie points for it. It's still a very, very good movie.
And you see them just like walking down the street, like while the credits are rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah. It felt, I agree. Could have ended with the wedding and then had Charles show up and yeah.
Yeah, or you could have done the wedding and then immediate smash cut to the walking towards the camera, the whole happy family thing.
Yeah.
That would have been fine. Pulling kids into the paddy wagon is just weird. While everyone's smiling, they're like, "Oh, this is great." It's like, okay.
Yeah, like hopping in the back of a pickup. Like, woo!
Right, like
just
y'all
married.
Going to jail. Y'all going to jail.
Only thing they were missing were just police dogs and then trying to have the little black kids pet the police dogs. Like, oh my God, puppies. Like, that's what that felt like.
Like, why not just hand one of the cops a Pepsi and like, oh, racism's over. Thanks, Kylie Jenner.
Weird.
But overall, I think this movie is pretty damn great. I think this is look for us to do more movies in the 70s, right? Like I think there's some pre-Reagan era stuff to really mine that are not blaxploitation movies. Though we'll get back to those too. But I like films like this. I think they're good, like morality tales, I guess you could say, but also having something to really say besides like don't be a bad person. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. As opposed to the other blaxploitation-esque movie that we did, where it was a bunch of niggas who were like, you know what's a good idea? Nazism, fascism.
Yeah, this is like the polar opposite. Holy shit!
I have to listen to that episode.
That's a wild movie. It's a wild movie.
Yeah, don't watch the movie. Like it's not worth watching. But this was a good movie.
Yeah, this is.
It was really good.
You know, really good music. We can't not talk about the fact that the music was done by Curtis Mayfield and Gladys Knight.
That's a crazy team. Like I was like the entire time the music's going on, I'm like, Gladys Knight is singing her ass off on these songs. Like,
although she's doing what I hate. She's singing the plot.
The plot, yeah. They gonna get chicken now. Like, all right.
Claudine, girl, what you doing right now? Like, all right. You better find that man. All right. Yeah.
Stop singing the plot.
Can we not do this, please?
Yeah, I'm normally not a fan of that. I would agree with you. Like I'm watching the movie. Like I don't need subtitles and you singing. Shit, I got it.
Like if you're gonna have a narrator, just have a goddamn narrator. I mean, like, damn. But you know, or how about you sing? How about you sing what the fuck is going on at that ending? Like that's what I need some explanation.
That's fucking hilarious. Absolutely. All right. That is it for us. We will see you guys next time or next week with a preview episode.
See ya.
Bye.
You're watching the Black on Black Cinema YouTube channel. Make sure you check out our full reviews of Black movies, past and present. And every other week, we do a preview episode where we talk about a random topic that affects the Black community.